Alhamdu wa shukru li waliyyi wa salatu wa salamu ala nabiyyih. In the last video we did promise to cover ostentation, riya, but some brothers requested that we cover Hajj because it is the season of Hajj. So firstly, if you look into the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Hajj occurs at a certain time, al-Hajju ashru ma'lumat, in a certain month, and some months are called the month of Hajj, but the month of Dhul-Hijjah is where the Hajj actually takes place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ فَرْضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجْجِ, a person upon whom Hajj becomes fard, then he has to perform the Hajj. And we know that if a person is financially and physically able to perform the Hajj, then once in their lifetime, they have to do so. The hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that the person upon whom Hajj becomes fard, he is able to financially and physically perform the Hajj and he does not do so, then he can die as a Christian or a Jew, and a care will not be given regarding this. Likewise, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the person upon whom Hajj becomes fard, then there are certain conditions or certain things he needs to do regarding not the rights of Hajj, but certain things you need to stay away from. فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ, sin and being lewd, or staying away from arguing, swearing, etc. And Allah subhanahu mentions this specifically because for those who have gone for a Hajj, even for Umrah, they know that with the great number, millions of people, there's a huge chance of falling into this sin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that a person stays away from this. Likewise in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever goes for Hajj and performs the Hajj and he does not do any sin in this, then he will return like the day his mother gave birth to him, completely free of sin. The hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that there is no reward for accepted Hajj except for Jannah. What is the purpose behind Hajj? What is the message behind Hajj? So if you look, it is closely connected to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this story is one which is a story of sacrifice. We know that Ibrahim alayhi salam sacrificed first when he was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to leave his newly born son and his wife and to go out from that place which was Makkah at the time. He left them into the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he went. So this was his first sacrifice, and the biggest sacrifice we know was when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him a dream, and in his dream he was sacrificing his son Ismail alayhi salam. So when he told his son Ismail alayhi salam, he said, Ya abati, if'al ma tu'mar, do what you have been ordered to by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the dreams of prophets are a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he went and he was willing to sacrifice his own son for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A ram came, or a lamb, or sheep, depending on the different narrations, and he sacrificed that instead of his son. So the purpose of Hajj is for a person to understand sacrifice, and for us to see in our lives, what do we sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Nobody's telling us to sacrifice our children for Allah, or to completely leave our wives and children and go away. But even small sacrifices, for example, with Fajr Salah being early, does a person sacrifice his sleep and wake up to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? With Fajr Salah maybe being the winter when it is cold, does a person sacrifice his warm bed and get out and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When it comes to business, does a person sacrifice that the few pounds he could make because it might be haram, and he sacrifices it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He leaves that so that his income is halal. This is the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to us through Hajj. Likewise, the message of Hajj is unity. If a person sees everyone dressed the same way in the ihram, 2 pieces of white cloth, to show that every single person, whether he's black or white, Asian, non-Asian, Arab, non-Arab, rich, poor, every single person is equal according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are a few things for those who are performing the Hajj. Inshallah, in the next video, we'll speak about what those people who are not performing the Hajj should be doing in the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah of the month of Hajj.